Yeah, it's it's a cold one. My beard is frozen. Just got out of the shower, came out to check on a few things, and yep, that's frozen. It's cold. It's probably about 28 degrees right now. Of course, I'm out here in a t-shirt because I just had to check on a couple things, and I'm silly like that. But yeah, not going to be going kayaking today because everything's still covered in snow. Was going to go out and do a little bit of hunting, but I accidentally set my alarm for tomorrow morning instead of today, which is not how you want to start things. But since we can't go hunting and can't go kayaking right now, and the place I was gonna go is it's gonna be windy today anyway, and I don't feel like being out in the wind when it's this cold out because yeah, that doesn't seem like a healthy plan. It's also really sunny, and I forgot my sunglasses, so let's get back inside. All right, we are back inside. It is warm in here. It's cold out there. It's real cold. Of course, everything's washed out behind me. Sorry about that, but there's nothing to see out there anyway because it's all white and covered in snow. So, before we get into what we're doing today, let's go ahead and say, hey there, how's it going? My name's Adam. This is Go To Outdoors, and I can't tell you how happy I am to have you back here with me again because I'm really excited about this video and really excited for the year ahead. 2025, brand new year, and every year brings along a new plan, a new goal, a new challenge for myself. Last year, what I did was the 50 species challenge. A couple reasons I didn't quite meet that last year. One, big trip I had at the end of the year. I just had a little bit too much fun in Florida. I had a couple days of touristy stuff. You can't go to Florida and travel somewhere and not do touristy things. So I missed out on a couple days of fishing. But at the end of the thing, after the middle of the year, getting bogged down chasing snakeheads, I am not going to apologize for chasing snakeheads for half the year because they are so much fun. They're definitely one of my top species now in terms of just going out and having a great time. But, so 22 species out of 50 last year. I still think that's a pretty solid result. I'm going to keep that goal in my back pocket for this year as well, kind of as an incidental thing. But my main goal for the year is I want to catch an 8-pound largemouth bass. Now, I know a double digit seems like it's more of a better idea, better goal, but I think 8 pounds would be really, really solid. Personally, my current personal best is 3 pounds and like 12 ounces or so. And that was a fish that, if it was healthy, could have probably been a 5.5, 6 pound fish. But yeah, that fish was like 21.5 inches. I don't have an exact measurement on it just because I measured it on my kayak paddle. I didn't have my catch board at the time because I wasn't fishing for it. I caught it on a 3-inch power grub while I was trying to fish for crappie underneath the bridge there, so it was kind of an incidental. And that's kind of the way most of my bigger bass catches have been. I've always been fishing for just what's out there. I haven't been targeting big fish. I've just been out going and having a good time. Pitching, flipping, throwing jigs, top waters, whatever you name it. What really kind of changed my mind on that though was when I was fishing the Spro KGB Chad. Now this is a 7-inch glide bait. The Shad glide, really choppy. Great action. There's plenty of videos, plenty of reviews on this bait that are online. The size of the fish that I caught on this lure is really what changed my mind and started shaping my idea for this year. Because, well, I'll just go ahead and put a clip into this fish too.
So this bass might have been a little bit optimistic. He hit a shad. That's a 2.5 ounce lure that's 6 inches long, and that bass might be 1.5 pounds. Oh man, I love it.
So that fish was less than 2 pounds. I don't even think that fish hit 2 pounds. And it hit a 7-inch lure. You can clearly see by the size of the lure and the size of the fish that hit it that something clicked for me. Is like, you know what? I don't think bass are afraid of big baits. I know smallmouth certainly aren't. Some of the biggest smallmouth I've caught have been on, 180 size, 190 size whopper ploppers, super large jerk baits, long jerk baits. And, I never really kind of applied that to largemouth the same as I did as smallmouth because I've always been thinking, I fish rivers, I fish current, I fish a lot of moving waters. smallmouth were just kind of the name of the game for me growing up. I never targeted largemouth as a rule, and it was only the last several years actually that I started learning really how to fish for them. When my buddy told me, hey, check this out, I started throwing this thing, and when I caught that fish, I was like, all right, if I can catch a 2-pounder on something this big, this has the possibility of catching much larger fish. Because, that's a good sized meal. If you think about it, a 5 to a 7-inch gizzard shad, threadfin shad, bluegill, that's a pretty common sized food item for a lot of the bass, whether it's in a pond, some of the lakes around here. Northern Virginia has a lot of lakes that are stocked with bluegills and stuff like that. Don't really have a big, shad, alewife, herring population, with the exception of like Lake Anna or, down south in Smith Mountain Lake or Clater Lake, something like that. Northern Virginia, you've really got Lake Anna that's got a blueback herring, a lot of bigger, longer, slender fish species. I know the Rappahannock River and a lot of Potomac River places I've seen gizzard shad well over a foot long. So a 7-inch lure, if something's going to eat a 10, 12, 14-inch gizzard, this is no problem at all. So I came home, I got to thinking, started watching some videos on glide baits, things like that. I was like, all right, let's go ahead and deep dive into this. So after I did that, I got a couple more swim baits, glide baits. Something I've actually had for years is the Jackal Gantarel Jr. For the longest time, I thought this was a gigantic lure. Again, I grew up trout fishing, smallmouth fishing, things like that. I never really got into the big fish game. Was never a trophy guy, never a tournament guy. Really just a pleasure fisherman. So I just went out. I was like, all right, let's see what goes ahead and bends the rod. So when I bought this, I thought this was stupid. I thought this was silly, but I was like, all right, I'll try it. So I've had this thing for years and years now, and I've got 3 of them. I got this one. I've got one that's a crappie color, and I have one that's kind of like a red, looks like a bloody carp looking color. But when I started throwing these, I noticed I was catching some really big smallmouth bass. And like the biggest smallmouth I've ever caught came on this. Previous to that, it was actually, like I said, the big whopper plopper. Not the huge one, like the musky size, pike-sized one. It was like the largest one you'd see, like on Tackle Warehouse or whatever. The 190, I think it is, the whopper plopper 190 or 180, whatever size that is. The one that's about that big. So when I got this, I was like, man, nothing's going to eat that. But then I started catching smallies on it, and it surprised the heck out of me because, this may be the junior. It's not the big one, but it's still, that's a sizable bait. It's got a lot of, height to it, profile. I mean, regardless of what finish is on it, it's got a great, bait fish profile. And a lot of the stuff you're going to find in the ponds around here. I've got some really nice fish out of ponds. The biggest fish in the ponds were usually like 3 pounds or so. But yeah, I had a lot of fun catching them. So I knew the swim bait thing was kind of a thing, which is why I kind of wasn't as hesitant as I could have been when I went to jump to the Chad Chad. But since then, I've gotten a couple more lures, and I've just been having a great time with it. So another thing that I throw a lot of for smallmouth and largemouth now is like the paddle tail soft baits. So I was like, all right, let's go ahead and try the Berkeley Cull Shad. I like the power bait stuff. I've had a lot of good luck with it. So I got a couple of these I'm going to be trying. I don't think I'm going to have any problem at all getting a fish to hit this. I think a smallmouth will hit this in a heartbeat. A largemouth will have no problem gulping that down. But one thing I did notice, and something that came out, I guess, at ICAST last year, is a more recent thing, is now there's an unrigged cull shad, which is something I used. I use on a owner flashy swimmer for snakeheads and stuff. It's just the common underspin. So now they have this 6-inch unrigged cull shad, and of course I get the albino pearl white. It's a great color for pretty much everything. You can sight fish with it. It's good. And I have some 8/0 owner flashy swimmers I'm going to be using with that. I also have some 8/0 3/4 ounce owner beast hooks that I'm going to be using for when I fish Lake Anna, Clater, go to Smith Mountain Lake, things like that, where they have more depth. And I want to use this same bait deeper down, slow drag it across the bottom, things like that. So in terms of soft baits, those, I got the 8-inch cull shad. I'm going to be trying that. 2 or 3 places I want to try that. I kind of want to use this more in saltwater for striped bass and stuff like that, but that's that. Also got the 9-inch Berkeley Nessie, and that's kind of more of a rainbow trout color. Most of my stuff I have either in white or in a hickory shad color or a gizzard shad color, just because I know the type of forage in the lakes and places where I'm going to fish, that's mostly what I'm going to see. Had a lot of luck throwing the smaller river to sea S-wavers. You know, that's a bait that needs no introduction. Plenty of fish have been caught on these. In terms of the swim baits, these are pretty much the cheapest you're going to find. And that's still a really good quality. I mean, they got really good hardware on them, really beefy hooks on them. I like it. And the fact that they're so inexpensive, I wouldn't mind trying to modify some of these. I've seen a lot of people, because it's not really a big angle that you get on these, so I want to like kind of file some of these down and see if I get a better, more choppy action out of these, because they're cheap enough. I wouldn't mind, like I wouldn't be nearly as nervous throwing these into like cover, like trees, you know, bushes, up near cover. So if I get one snagged up and I don't have any way to get it back, if I snap off a $12 lure, because I got these on sale for the Black Friday sales on Tackle Warehouse, that is the Ghost Minnow color. That was the Tackle Warehouse exclusive, and these were like 12 bucks, so I got 3 of them just in case, because like I said, I want to throw them, have one, keep it like this, another one I'm going to file down the sides, try and get a different action out of it, and the third one I may actually have painted. Might have it custom painted. I had a couple lures that were custom painted recently, and the results were spectacular. Kind of a sneak peek on that right there. That's going to be later, and perhaps another video entirely. Another one that I had, I love the action on, but I haven't actually caught anything other than a bluegill, which I accidentally snagged, is the 6 cents draw. This is the 6.5. Got that. I like the action on it. It's not quite as easy to work with just sticky hooks. With just the reel, like I do some of the other ones, you actually kind of have to twitch the rod a little bit. There's a little bit more body roll that I've noticed on this, and there's also kind of that a little pronounced rattle. Not as loud as some of the things I've been throwing, but there's a pronounced rattle on that one. The one thing I noticed on these is the tails kind of bend a little bit, depending on how you have them sitting. It's kind of annoying. I'd like to try and find a way to take that out and kind of make a little brush tail, because I really like the way that this works in the water, the way it affects everything. And I think because it'll collapse a bit easier if a fish swipes at the back, that it would just kind of help the hookup ratio if I didn't have that soft plastic there. So I might find a way to mold that into kind of a brush tail, make my own tails for it. I like tweaking things in case you haven't noticed. Next one, though, that I've actually been throwing a lot is the G-Rat Sneaky Pete. That's their 8-inch, 8-inch-ish glide bait. And the reason I picked up on these is because, well, they work great in current, and I fish a lot in rivers, like I said, and especially around here, the fact that there's going to be the potential for catching musky out of the rivers. This is a bait that doesn't wash out in current. The action stays true, and I really, really, really like the way they swim. See, I've been throwing this one a lot. I got there's a lot of hook rash on the back there. Couple good scuffs on the top of that one. But I swapped out the tail to a different color. I added the chartreuse tail just to kind of have a little bit of continuity of color that goes with the bottom of the bait there. And the one thing I noticed about G-Rat is most of their finishes they're kind of plain. You know, they're not super detailed. This is one of the few that they have kind of like a photorealistic pattern on there. But what I did notice is they tend to chip a lot. Like the middle there, that is chipping. And the hooks, of course, do their thing. You're going to have hook crash and everything else. That's just the nature of the game. I don't really care if a bait gets beat up by the hooks and everything, because it just shows that you're using it. And honestly, my chatterbaits, my spinnerbaits, things like that, I've noticed the more they get beat up, the better they get hit for some reason. So I don't mind that at all. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the G-Rat baits. I like a very, very pronounced rattle, so I don't think they'd have a problem getting found by fish in like murky or stained water. I like the fact that they have really nice swiveling hook hangers on there, and it's just a beefy, well-built bait. I know these guys design these to fish for stripers out west, and if they can handle some of the stripers that I've seen them catch, they'll definitely handle the fish around here. So this so far has been my go-to for just throwing it in all kinds of situations. I've had 2 musky follows on this that I've seen just the last 2 times I've been out, and I also had a really big follow. I'm guessing it was probably about a 4 or 5 pound largemouth, but I just couldn't get him to commit because the water was really cold. But with the sound and the size, this has a lot of drawing power, so you're going to get followers and you're going to learn where the fish are just by throwing this thing around. So I'm real excited about the G-Rats. Another one of the 6th Sense draws that I have is I did get one of the 9-inch. I want to throw this, some of the bigger lakes as well. Get this one, kind of this color, just to imitate the bigger blueback herring. And honestly, golden shiners, things like that. It'll imitate a lot of good, just a generic bait profile. And I think a chunk of ice just hit a gutter on the roof. That was interesting. But again, big beefy bait, great paint job, swiveling hook hangers. Just a well-built bait. I haven't thrown this one yet. Like I said, I threw a lot of the smaller one. I'm wondering how much different action I'm going to get out of the 9-inch versus the 6.5. But also have to throw this on different tackle. We're going to get to tackle here in a second as well, just kind of what I've been working on. So yeah, that's just kind of a small cross-section of the baits I want to throw this year. Obviously, I got a couple others that are kind of waiting in the wings, like I said, in the custom. And yeah, I also have something that just came in today from these guys. So, all right. Yeah, we're going to actually have to do an unboxing on that one because that was a bait that I got in on the first drop. It's a brand new bait, and it just came in the mail about 20 minutes ago. So, super stoked about that. And yeah, so let's go ahead and go over some of the rods and reels I plan on throwing all this stuff on. The first ones I picked up, I got the Okuma, the Guide Select Custom Blacks. That's something that was a Tackle Warehouse exclusive. I picked up this one a while back, and this has one of those Owner Beast 3/4 ounce A-dot that I plan on throwing the unrigged cull shad on. So this is the 7.9 medium heavy. I really like the action on this one. It has a great parabolic bend to it. It loads up really well if you're throwing anything from about a 3/4 ounce up to a 3 ounce bait. So I got that paired up with a 13 Fishing Concept A3, and this is the high speed one. I believe it's an 8-3-1, something like that. It's a fast one, that's all I know. I think it's 8-3-1. I got this specifically because, I got this honestly as a snakehead reel, snakehead and tarpon reel and snook reel, because that's something I wanted to try and get into as well last year. But works fantastic for snakehead because you can pick up so much line, it holds so much line. I've got 40 pound Beyond Braid, just black, and I have a 20 pound fluorocarbon leader to a Owner Hyperwire welded snap. And this thing has been great. I could throw spinner baits, chatter baits, any top water I own I can throw in this thing. This is just a fantastic rod and reel. It's super lightweight. I love the bend that this rod has, and I wouldn't even mind throwing this as a punching or a flipping rig because it's got so much backbone. It's got a really nice long handle, so you can tuck it up under here and horse on something if you have to. And it's super lightweight for what it is. It's a great rod. And I like this one so much that I got another one. So I have 2 of this exact same rod and reel setup. And so this one, the reason I got 2 of the same one is because the line rating, the lure rating that these things have, it's not printed on the rods, but there was kind of a little infographic on the Tackle Warehouse website. And of course you can always call Okuma and they will tell you what the specs are in their stuff too. They're super handy. I love giving them a call, giving them a ring or an email. They will answer your questions. Another reason I like these rods is because of the super beefy line tie, or the hook keeper that's on there. I mean, that's about as stout as you're going to find. It's not one of those little tiny wire clips that you have trouble fumbling and feeding something into. No, you just clip this sucker up. If you manage to pull that out or bend that, you've done something special. So yeah, the reason I got 2 of these One, I want to use this to keep just for a 6-inch to, the 6-inch call shad or the unrigged call shad that I'm going to have on this hook or the underspin. The second one that I have is going to be for throwing, lighter, smaller glides. Currently I got a Buka trick shad on there, but I still have the same Concept A3. Has the 40-pound braid. This one actually has a 30-pound copoly leader that I have on there to that same clip. Just because I wanted something that floats a little bit better. Most of the glides that I have, like this, they're gonna be a slow float or a slow sink, and I just want to kind of use the line to help with the buoyancy of the bait itself. But these are, like I said, these ones I think are like a 3/4 ounce to a 3-ounce lure, and so throwing these smaller, small glide baits, the S waver, the smaller draw, that's gonna be awesome for these ones right here. And like I said, I like this rod so much, I got another one. Now on top of that, I had a couple other, Shimano Tranks. These are my Tranks 300s. They are the 300 HGs. So yeah, I just took these off some of my musky rods because what I want to focus on, like I said, is the largemouth bass this year. So these have 80-pound Power Pro Max Quattro on there. I'm probably going to be using a 25 or 30-pound leader on these ones. But I have this paired up to another of the Okuma Guide Select Black Series. Custom blacks. This one is the heavy, so I have 2 medium heavies. Those were 7.9. This is a 7.11 heavy, and the line rating on this one is about 1.5 to 4 ounce. So what this thing is ideally suited for is going to be those mid-sized glides. Your Chad Shad, your Alabama rigs, which I've never thrown one. I got a couple of them. I'm going to rig this thing up, and I'm going to be using that to chase stripers and stuff down at Lake Anna as well. But I just thought it was a great time to try that on one of these. It's probably going to work great for the Sneaky Pete's, things like that, because it's got another moderate fast, just like the 7.9, the medium heavy. So it's not like an absolute broomstick. It's still going to load up really well. It's going to be able to cast the baits really well and not wear you out nearly as much as it possibly could. So I'm really excited about that one too. Another one of my musky reels that I took off and put on yet another Okuma Guide Select Black Custom Black. This is the extra heavy. Now another one of my Tranks 300s that I pulled off a musky rod and put onto this is another one of the Okuma Guide Select Custom Blacks. Now this one is the 7.11 extra heavy. This is rated for a 2.5 to 6 ounce lure. Again, it's another Tranks 300 HG, 80-pound Max Quattro, Power Pro Max Quattro, and I'm probably going to run this with the same 25, 30-pound leader. Now, what I want to throw on this one is, the other 3 are ones I'm probably going to bring out with me every single time I go, because I don't plan on throwing anything much heavier than about 4 ounces, except on rare occasions where certain places I go that I'm going to be targeting big ones. But this one, being that it can cover up to 6 ounces, I'll be able to throw something like the 10-inch G-Rad, the Papa Pete. I got a couple of those that I want to try. It's going to be, for some of the heavier, like jig hook baits, like the 8-inch Savage Gears. If I get an 8-inch HUD, things like that. If I want to start throwing a Huddleston next winter, I'll do that. But this will work, pretty solid for those as well. But yeah, that's number 4. And the last one I have is the other one that I got early last year that I wanted to try and use for musky fishing this year. It's yet another Okuma Guide Select Custom Black. This one is the extra heavy. Now this bad boy is rated for 3.5 to 10 ounce lures. Currently I have the Bait Sanity Explorer Glide on there. That's about a 5 ounce lure, and it's paired up to a Tranks 400 HG. I still have 80-pound braid on there. This is 80-pound Beyond braid. Got a 2,000 yard spool of that, and I think it's great stuff. It's a fantastic line. smooth. It doesn't like make a lot of whining sound going through the guides. So yeah, I have the 80-pound braid to a 30-pound copoly leader, and again I have the really big, beefy owner snap. Now the knots that I use, that is a double San Diego jam. It is a knot that I have had a lot of good luck with this last year. Palomar knots, when you get to a really big, beefy diameter of stuff, it doesn't really work as well. It also doesn't work as well using straight braid. There's plenty of videos online that discuss that problem. But this, the Explorer, I love the way this thing looks in the water. The action is spectacular, but I also know the action can be changed a little bit by using the different tails that Bait Sandy brought out. I have the standard stock tail on this one. I have a couple of the other tails. I got the paddle tail and the longer tail like this. They all have a different action, and I'll be showing that in a future video, how each of those tails affects how this bait moves in the water. Just great overall looking lure. And look, this is going to be my standard setup for the really chunky baits. I don't ever plan on throwing a lure that weighs more than about 10 ounces. If I do that, it's going to be dedicated musky gear, and that's going to be, you know, if you're throwing the 1 pound plus big old rubber lures, if you're up in some place like Lake St. Clair, and fish that are going to nom that stuff, and that's what they're known for. They're not around here. I don't plan on fishing them very often, and it wears you out throwing those anyway. So I don't think I'm going to be throwing this rig very often, but I want to have it just in case I do, because there will be times when I'm just like, all right, let's go see what happens. So that last rod is going to be the big chungus. That's what I plan on throwing most of my big stuff on, whether it's the Bait Sandy Explorer Glide, if I ever get in like fishing the 10-inch Huddlestons or any of the larger soft plastics, you know, all the way up to, you know, shooting the 11-inch Arma Joint. Yes, there is an 11-inch Arma Joint. Don't ask. That one's going to be a fun one. Again, that's a video for another time. I'm excited about that one. I really like the way the smaller Arma Joints look in the water, and that thing is going to be fantastic. But yeah, that's kind of an overview of the basic stuff I'm going to be using. My big bait setup, like I said, I got a whole bunch of different glide baits. I'm going to do a breakdown on each one of those in future videos, whether I'm using them, showing you how they work, do things underwater, and hopefully doing a cast to catch on every single one of the baits that I've got this year. And hopefully, crossing my fingers, going after that 8-pound largemouth. You know, that's the goal. I want to get that 8-pounder this year. So really don't know where else to go from there. Got a couple more customs. Like I said, I got a lot of stuff I haven't shown here. I got some stuff, like I said, I got custom painted. I got some stuff that is, you know, more of the niche market swim baits. If you guys are into swim baits, you know what I'm talking about. There's some really hard to get super niche stuff out there that you got to be ready for it when it drops. So I do have some of that stuff, and like I said, this is stuff I've been collecting for the last year or so, and I'm really excited to really grow my skills and abilities in the swim bait world, and we're going to see what happens, and I'll bring you along with me on this journey because it's going to be a fun one. But yeah, that's about all I really got for you today. Like I always say, thanks again for watching. Make sure you find a reason to smile today, and I'll catch you in the next one.